It's our pleasure this morning to have Dan Cardinali with us. Dan Cardinali is the president of Communities and Schools, and not just of Communities and Schools of Lakewood, but Communities and Schools Incorporated, the nation's largest dropout prevention organization, serve 1.25 million students in the United States. Where the organization is active in 25 states and the District of Columbia, and doing just absolutely amazing work everywhere. So Dan, why don't you come on up here and share with us. Welcome, Dan Cardinali.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right. Now I'm on East Coast time, so I'm a little more awake than you all. And first of all, I just want to thank you all. It is a little bit stunning for me this morning. My job is to share a little bit of kind of what we're doing, and I don't really have to after the program this morning. And I'd love to hold a mirror up to this room, because when you talk about communities and schools, we talk about a community of support to do something to change kids' lives. When you look out at this room, you see the community already doing that. This morning is just a perfect example of that. You had choices. You didn't have to be here. You could do lots of other things. And we see the police department and the fire department and the city council and the school system and volunteers and community-based organizations and extraordinary leaders all in the same room saying, how can we make a difference in kids' lives? So that is what CIS is. We are about being part of that, and in some ways we hope to be kind of a neutral person that can convene folks and continually ask, what more can we do for kids, and how do we know? So I'm a little bit like a vampire. I get to come to these and just suck enormous amounts of hope and enthusiasm and belief that we can actually change the face of America in small morning breakfasts with a couple of hundred people who believe that change is possible. So first of all, it's a huge thank you to you all for the little, big, and extraordinary things you do every single day for young people. So thank you very, very much. I was asked to share a little bit about my background, why I do this work. And there's always just a very simple story that I share. And it marked me. I was very, very lucky as a young man to spend a good chunk of my post-college years in Mexico. I worked in a city called Guadalajara, and in the southern part of that city there are communities that are extraordinarily poor. And there are campesinos, people from the rural communities, come in and they basically squat on empty land. And they're really just fighting for their survival. What happened over time was that the police, who are nothing like our extraordinary troopers here this morning, were in a situation where they weren't paid enough, and they unfortunately went the route of exploiting those people that were the poorest. And they'd get in a pickup truck, and there'd be 4 or 5 young men in the back of a pickup truck in their full uniforms with automatic rifles. And they'd come barreling into one of these communities, and they'd find a young man, usually 13, 14, or 15, and accuse him of some petty crime. And the family knew that if he was taken off, they would have to go find him, which was expensive, and then pay a very large bail to get him out. And then there'd be no due process, and they'd tie up the kid for a year, and the family would be kind of drained of what little resources they had. And this was a problem that we had going on and on. And where I lived was the side of a mountain, so it was kind of a very ragged place with no roads, just these kind of ditches that the water ran. And one afternoon, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was raining, and I was coming up the mountain to meet with some families, and I saw one of these pickup trucks go by. And you just get terrified when you see that, because you don't know what's going to happen. And by the time I got around the corner, they had stopped, and there was a small crowd of people. And there were a couple of young men that were kind of behind or in front of these troopers, and their guns were there. And before I knew it, a woman who I knew quite well, she was about 65, she had 13 kids, her name was Josefina, and she kind of emerged from the crowd, and she stepped slowly in front of the kids, between the kids and the police. And she said to them, "Oh, you've made a terrible mistake. I don't think you understand. These young men are innocent. They haven't done anything." And they began to press down on her. And she said, "No, I don't think you understand. This is my son you're accusing, and you're not going to take him. And it was one of those pivotal moments. And then the crowd slowly began to ease behind her in support. And there was another moment, and the police just said, you know, we think you're right. There's probably been a mistake here, and we're going to go on. And afterward, Josephine looked quite a bit lighter than she normally was, just kind of can't believe that she did this. And I said to her, Josephine, I didn't realize that this guy was your son. And she said to me, oh, he's not. But he could have been. And it was the pivotal moment that kind of changed my life, that until we as adults, with what, in my mind, Josefina had no power, but she had the power of belief that she could do something. And she stood in that moment between a child's life that could have gone very, very badly. And she claimed him as her own. And not only that, but the crowd behind her supported that effort and gave her backing. So that's why I came to Communities and Schools, and that's why I stay. And that's why when I started this morning, I said, I wish I could hold up a mirror. It's because that is exactly what is happening. Each of you, in your various ways, make extraordinary difference in individual children's lives. And you have a crowd of people behind you supporting you, be it Communities and Schools, be it the nonprofits or the public institutions that you work with. And you believe that what you're doing now, the honorable, loving way that you will do whatever it takes to love this child into change, you can transform this young person's trajectory and model for the community that it is possible, that we can do a remarkable thing here, which is improve graduation rates by 12 points. Did I hear? Did I get that right? That is extraordinary, and it's almost 5 times more than what the country has been able to do in the last 5 years in terms of improving graduation rates. So extraordinary things are alive and well here in Lakewood. So when I say I come as a vampire, I am dead serious. I get to suck all this amazing energy and share this story across the country. So that's why I'm in this business, because I get to build on Josefina's example to me, and it is recurring every single day in my life. I would be remiss if I didn't, as kind of the national president, share with you a couple of important things you need to know. The first is that we know that passion is critical in our own lives. To love a young person in such a way that she or he can believe they have a future when a lot of their life has told them that they don't is an extraordinary act. The question, though, is, do we know if it actually makes a difference? Can we take that and transform the way public education partners with the community? So CIS has been around for about 35 years. You heard how big we are. We're in about 25 states. There are 200 organizations like what's here in Lakewood across the United States. Some enormous and some very, very small. We're in urban and rural and suburban communities. And about 8 years ago, my bosses at the board that I work for said, they're all Wall Street business types, and they said, Dan, this is great. You tell these terrific stories and you go out and you see these incredible communities, but do we actually know it makes a difference? Do we actually know if we, as an organization, make a difference? So we raised $5 million, hired the best third-party evaluation firm in the country, and we had 2 questions for them. Do we lower dropout rates and improve graduation rates? And the second question is, if we do, can you tell us when we're doing our work the best? What communities and what are they doing that actually create results? So I'm happy to say the results came back 5 years later, and they made an assertion that no other nonprofit in the United States can make. The Communities and Schools, what you just heard Dan talk about is our site coordinator model, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. When it's being implemented well, we are the only organization in the United States that can support public education in both lowering dropout rates and improving graduation rates. We don't do it alone. We are partners with lots of nonprofits and with the school system and lots of public institutions. But our site coordinators are the difference, and that was the second question. When the results came back and they said, when you have a site coordinator in the building who is a deep partner, not just a nice to have, but a deep partner with the principal and teachers, And together they say, what are the needs of these particular kids? There's no assumption that one program is the right program. It's like a doctor, a general practitioner, when a kid comes in the door. It says, he's coughing a lot, and she's got this pain in her left shoulder, and she's limping. The doctor is charged with figuring out what's wrong. And a kid who has a pain in his left shoulder may not be the same kid that needs asthma medication. So like a CIS site coordinator, we look at each child and we look at the whole school and we come up with the right combination of resources, bring them into the school to help the superintendents, the principals, and the teachers drive academic excellence. Because we take away all those distractions that we heard about this morning about poverty. How can a child possibly learn if he spent the entire night riding a city bus? It's a miracle he even gets to school. If you can attend to that need, that child then shows up ready to learn and, as we heard, capable of graduating or going to college. So our work is about ensuring we use the absolute best set of interventions. You would never send a sick child into a non-certified doctor. You just wouldn't do it. You'd send your sick child to the best damn professional you could find. So what we at Community Schools, after doing this third-party evaluation, said, we want to be the best damn professionals partnering with principals and teachers in schools. And so that's what we did. We took those evaluation results. We built a whole management structure that ensures that all of our site coordinators are certified. They go through training to make sure they have the best knowledge possible to be the best general practitioners in schools. And our goal is to free up teachers and principals to be extraordinary at what they do, and to enable community members, so when they have an hour a week or once a year, they're capable of channeling their resources into a fundamental way to make a difference in kids' lives. So that's the analytics of saying, when I hold up that mirror, you're not just here being extraordinary citizens. You've made a choice about channeling your precious time, your resources, and your smarts to actually making measurable difference in kids' lives. So that's why I'm thanking you. It isn't just because you're passionate people, because you've made a fundamentally great set of choices about ensuring kids have extraordinary potential. So in my job, I have to ask people for money. I don't mind doing that because I believe deeply in what we do, but I always like to say there are 3 ways people can help, 3 critical ways. The first is to volunteer. I'm talking to a room full of volunteers. So please don't stop, keep it going. And bring in your friends, your colleagues, and find the best, most talented people you know in your life and partner them in a way that makes sense to them and to young people. The second is to donate. Nonprofits do not run on air. Sometimes it feels like we do, but we don't. And insofar as we can have secure nonprofit leaders and site coordinators who are concentrating on the kids' lives and not worrying about payroll, they are even better at what they do. So you have some great community leadership here, and folks have been incredibly generous. The one thing I would say is the killer in the nonprofit sector is cash flow. So if you can think about doing your gifts in a monthly way to give cash here routinely, you will secure people's ability to be focused on their work. And the last one is to advocate. I know we have a number of officials here. If you look at communities and schools where we are most effective, we have deep partnerships with school systems and the city council. They say, community and schools is no longer a nice to have. It becomes an integral part of the fabric of the community. And as such, we think public dollars, because they hold themselves so accountable and transparent to delivering results, to lowering dropout rates and improving graduation rates, we see that it's good that they have that public money as a support to that. So I ask local community members, local leaders here, not just here in this community, but also nationally. There's some terrific opportunities. So I want to end with the story of Doña Josefina. Doña Josefina continued to be a community leader. Within about 6 or 7 months, the paratroopers no longer came into our community. So change is possible. One citizen standing up behind children that are not her own and claiming them as her own can transform a whole community. So thank you very, very much for being here this morning. Thank you for allowing me to be with you. It's really just a terrific honor. So have a great rest of the day.